But first we begin with a question. Do you know how many French people in the whole of history claim to have been abducted by aliens? No? Well, I'll tell you, it's 3. In Britain, it's 4, and yet in America, home of every stupid lunatic on the planet, it's 13,128. Now, I can see why Martians would want to land in a remote part of the world like Utah, but why do they never encounter a stockbroker who's out there on holiday doing some hiking? Why is it always people in dungarees? People called Dwayne. I have a theory on this. They're lying. Aliens have never been to Earth. And while I'm at it, JFK was killed by a lone gunman, Neil Armstrong did walk on the moon, crop circles are caused by students, and Ford has never developed a secret car that runs on parsley. Now, my next guest disagrees with all of this. He calls himself a conspiracy theorist. We think he may be a loony, but let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Allen. So are you going to try and convince me, then, that man hasn't walked on the moon?
Yes, I am going to convince you.
Well, why, principally, would they fake it?
Because they couldn't get there. There was a real problem in getting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
Not the rockets. There were plenty of good rockets. The rockets got there all right.
Yeah.
It's called radiation. Beyond the Earth's Van Allen radiation belts, which go to about 20,000 miles, there's real radiation. The sort of radiation which we're told, if it gets through the hole in the ozone layer, is going to give us all cancer, and we'll die.
But couldn't they have made radiation suits for them?
They could have done, but apparently they didn't. Because if they made radiation suits for the astronauts could have lent their suits to technicians to go into Chernobyl and clear up the mess in the nuclear reactor. So I asked the manufacturer, and I said, could these suits be used to go into Chernobyl? And they said no. And I said, why? And they said, because we weren't asked to provide any radiation protection. Which seemed a bit odd.
Nothing to do with the fact they didn't like the Russians and they were glad their nuclear power station.
Yes, that was a few years later.
But this is all very well saying they didn't go because of radiation. There is some photographic evidence, is there not? And I've got some here, of a man quite clearly on the moon.
Yep, that is quite clear. That is allegedly Buzz Aldrin on the moon, photographed by Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
On Apollo 11. He's on the moon, isn't he?
He is on the moon.
We've been told he's on the moon.
Yes.
So we believe he's on the moon.
He is on the bloody moon. That's a picture of a man in a spacesuit on the moon.
Exactly.
Well, what's wrong with it? What makes you think that photograph wasn't taken on the moon?
All right. There's the sun, you can see in the photograph, the sun is coming from here, from the right-hand side of the picture.
Okay, yeah.
You can see all the detail in the front of that spacesuit.
Yeah.
Where did the light come from that illuminated the shadow area of that photograph? You can see where the sun is illuminating him. That's on his left-hand side.
Yeah.
But all the rest of the front is shadow area, or it should be.
Flash photography?
They had no flash guns with them. They had no
Candle?
lights. They had no reflection. Candle, possibly.
Reflection from the Earth?
Reflection from the Earth, possibly, except when you work out where the Earth was at the time of the Apollo 11 landing, the Earth was directly overhead.
But, right, well, what about this one? Right. This one here.
There he is, Aldrin walking down the ladder from the lander.
Yeah.
You can see where the sun is. The sun is, again, on the right-hand side. So the whole area he's in there is in shadow. So where did the light come from that's illuminating him so clearly? Because, right, let's say there are two places it could come from. There's two places it could come from. One is the Earth. We've eliminated that.
Yeah.
It's not in the right position. It's not bright enough.
So where did they take these pictures then?
All right, before they did the supposed landing, July 1969, they practiced in simulators. There's no secret about that. They built sets which were exact replicas of the site they were going to land on. There was a series called The Planet, shown on BBC, which showed the Sea of Tranquility created in Arizona. Yeah. Exact duplicate.
So this is in fact Arizona, this picture here?
It could be Arizona. It's more likely to be a very large studio set in which they could
What's
do
this?
the simulation. Well,
This is what... did someone leave a window open, do you think?
well, they may have left... It looks more like... I don't like to say this, but it does look rather like a spotlight. But
OK, we've got the footage of, I think it's Apollo 15, taking off from the moon, OK? What is wrong with this? This is proof. Look.
What's left on the moon?
Well, the legs.
Yeah, there's a launch site, a launch. The lower half of the lunar lander was left on the moon.
Yeah.
OK?
No,
so it's left on the moon.
Yeah.
That lander is the size of a small truck. Quite a big piece of kit. 5 years ago, the Americans sent an unmanned craft back to the moon to rephotograph the whole lunar surface using 1990s technology. 1990s technology.
I know what you're going to say.
Spy satellite technology. The technology that can read a newspaper headline from space. If that technology was being used to rephotograph the lunar surface, I think it could have photographed one of those landers still on the surface, or one of the rovers. I haven't seen that photograph. I've searched the internet, and if anybody can find it, I'd love to see it.
Can I just throw this one into the mix, OK? Thousands of people work at NASA. Now, it's very difficult to get an American to shut up for like 5 minutes. So how did they get 30,000 NASA employees to shut up for 30 years? I mean, has no one been to a dinner party, had a few too many, and go, I'll tell you a great story, though, we never went?
They have.
They have?
They have.
And then they, die in mysterious train crashes?
Well, they tend to be disbelieved, because I watched the live landing. I watched the landings live on television.
As did I.
As did you.
Yeah.
As did a lot of people.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe that what I was seeing was the truth, was real. I wanted to believe that man landed on the moon. But let's just say they examine all the evidence to get to the moon. They examine all the difficulties, because this started with Kennedy's famous speech in May 1961. We'll land a man on the moon before the decade is out and return him safely to the Earth. Landing a man on the moon wasn't the problem. It was returning him safely to the Earth that was the problem. If they discovered at some point during that time, no, we don't think we can return them safely. We've got the radiation problems to overcome. We've got the temperature problems to overcome. We've got all the landing. We've got to do it by the end of the decade. You also got to put the whole thing in context. We're talking about the late 1960s, height of the Vietnam War, height of the Cold War, height of the space race. Russia had beaten America to just about every major objective. First Sputnik, first man, first woman, first two-man, first to the moon, 1959, first to Venus. America were nowhere. America don't have the option of coming second.
Is that why NASA shot Kennedy then, which I presume you think?
Kennedy was killed accidentally by one of the people in the car behind him.
Oh, no, we're not...
But let's not worry.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Allen.